Good afternoon. My name is Robert Bell, and with me today is my wife Margaret. Most of you simply would not recognize us, but some of you today, of course, would know us right away. I had the privilege of being the organizing pastor of Hope Church 50 years ago, and Margaret was the very first choir director for a couple of years. It's hard to believe that 5 decades have melted away so quickly. Here's how our family of 5 looked way back then, before all that proverbial water went under the bridge to bring us into today's crazy world. But let me tell you, in spite of the passing of time, those beginning days of Hope Church seemed almost like yesterday. And I'm sure that for those of you who are charter members, you also can quickly recall the excitement of those first days. In so many ways, I really want you to know that my 8 years as your pastor stands as a highlight of my career. But there were others who laid the foundation before I ever came on the scene. For many years, in fact, the Board of Missions of the Iowa Methodist Church saw a need to establish a new congregation on the quickly growing south side of Marshalltown. Land was purchased and door-to-door surveys were held. I simply came on the scene to connect the dots. It was so rewarding to facilitate all of those home meetings that we had, the dreaming and the shared expectations, laying the groundwork for what we believed were priorities for a healthy congregation. What a challenge we had in welcoming new families, which included what we called about 100 missionaries from First Methodist Church in Marshalltown, and a large majority of members from Faith Evangelical United Brethren Church who accepted the challenge to give up their church identity to share in this new ministry of a new United Methodist Church. In fact, one of our first jobs was to christen the church with an official name, even though a lot of members wanted to name it Thistle Hill since we were literally in a weed patch. But for obvious reasons, we settled on the name of Hope. What was most exciting for me was the fact that I never had to twist any arms or do any begging to challenge anyone to take on positions of leadership. People volunteered. They were excited, they were creative, anxious to be a part of this adventure of faith. The Spirit was really alive. Over the years, I have tried to keep abreast of what was happening at Hope Church. With so many churches in today's world struggling to survive, it is so pleasing to know that Hope Church has found its identity and is providing a valued ministry. So now, Margaret and I are both retired, healthy, and a bit sassy, enjoying our home in Tucson, Arizona. Again, we congratulate you on the milestone of 50 years of faithful service to Jesus Christ.
From Otto and Kathy Welfring. In 1970, we moved with our children Darcy and John to Marshalltown from Hayward, Iowa. We transferred our membership to the United Methodist Church to First Methodist Church in Marshalltown. I taught math and coached for 25 years at Marshalltown High School.
After belonging to First United Methodist in Marshalltown, there were some coffee meetings held in the south part of town to see if there was interest in starting a church in this area. I remember going to a coffee held at the home of Denny and Garnet Dunn for people who were interested in getting this church going. I remember very vividly meeting Laverna Warden and Janet, her daughter, at that coffee. Over the years, we met many nice people at Hope Church, as well as Laverna. And she was a special lady. The special friendship we had with Pastor John Reboff will always be remembered.
As a charter member of Hope Church, I have been most active as a member of the choir for all 50 years. I've served on most committees of the church except for the trustees. I have served as chairman of the administrative board for a number of years. Most recently, I was involved with a group that studied and approved the change to one board for our church. I served for 1 year as a member of this leadership team. I've also been a part of the Perquesters since that group was started. I've enjoyed the many friends I have made during these 50 years. Probably the closest friend I would have been Pastor John Reboff.
I think I
I'm Carolyn Solosik, and I was one of the 50 members of the first church, Hope United Methodist, and my family, Dale, and my children were all a part of it, and we were there for the first celebration of Hope. And it was a wonderful, wonderful morning, and we had people inside, outside, and everywhere to get into the church. And so it was really a wonderful celebration. So we started there and ended there, and Dale has been gone, and the children all went through school, Sunday school here, and we always had, we were always at church every Sunday, all of our family together. So it's been a wonderful time for us. And while I was there, I was always in the choir. I have done a lot of work with missions for UMW, for quilting, and a lot of studying, and a lot of disciple work. So it has been a wonderful experience, and I hope that the church continues for another 50 years.
Hi, Carol Lee Hutchins. Wilbur and I are charter members of Hope Church. One of my memories is of the Women at the Well trip that we made to the women's penitentiary at Mitchellville. During the church service, I was befriended by an 82-year-old inmate who had been there for 40 years. She did mention that she had painted Hope Church. After the church service, she took me to the library where she did present me with a beautiful watercolor of Hope Church. Wilbur and I had this framed and presented it to the church.
This is Lois Cochran, and I was a charter member of Hope Church. And one of the first things I think of as I recall the church beginning was the small groups that we had, because we were being formed as a church out of two churches, the former EUB, United Brethren Church, and the United Methodist Church. So we had small groups to get to know each other and to share, and that was very meaningful. And then when the church actually started, the very first Sunday, there was such excitement in the air, and we were all thrilled, and there were children that were being noisy because we had a lot of children. And after church, we had Sunday school, and we had to move all the chairs out and to the corners, and we had little circles for our Sunday school, all in the fellowship hall. And it was just a joyous time of all being together, a very noisy time in Sunday school, but a very joyous time. And I will never forget that. Is that enough?
Hello everyone, my name is Milt Van Gundy. I've been asked by the committee on the 50th anniversary to help with reading a message from Pastor Scott Lothe. Scott was unable to be here with us today, but he sends kind words. He writes, Happy anniversary, Hope. I am so pleased to be able to celebrate with you 50 years of ministry in Marshalltown and around the world. Hope UMC is one of those special places where all are included, mission takes priority over preference, and God's love is practiced in a variety of ways. I will be forever thankful for the ways in which you helped me raise my family. Hope was a wonderful place for them to grow as disciples of Jesus and receive the acceptance that they needed. Still today, many of you reach out to my kids on Facebook and encourage them on the journey. My children remember many wonderful experiences at Hope Church. They talk about the fall gatherings at the bean farm, the mission trips to Heifer with Helen, wonderful Wednesdays with Carol, afternoons spent with Verla. Hope is a special place. Thank you for all you do to extend God's kingdom and our kingdom around the world. Shalom from Scott.
Dear siblings in Christ, how I wish I could be with you on the 24th. But alas, a number of months ago a trip was scheduled that will bring some of us out of the country on Celebration Day. I'm sad to miss seeing wonderful folk from Hope, for whom I still pray daily. I cherish my 8 years in Marshalltown. We had a fine 25th anniversary celebration. I was blessed in our ministry by staff, the joy of being a clergy partner with Bev Bell, the wonderful work and warm friendship shared with Judy Nanke, my appreciation of Tom Moore, who saw his maintenance of the building as a ministry. And then there were the wonderful folk who helped us make worship ring out with grand sounds, folk like Jolene Kubley, John Devlin, Jenny Van Gundy, and the great singers, and also for a wonderful, caring congregation. For a pastor to be so blessed is indeed rare. Great memories include the start of wonderful Wednesdays, which were part of our relationship with Hoagland School. My opportunities to teach were also a delight. I still find mouth-watering at those wonderful Iowa chops that we had on major celebrations. There's so much I could recount, but don't have time. When I was a student at Wesley Seminary in Washington, D.C., our seminary singers made a stop at Barrett's Chapel in Maryland. It was the site where our first American Methodist bishops, Francis Asbury and Thomas Coke, encountered each other for the first time. That church was doing some repair and renovation work and was selling bricks from the original 1700s construction. I bought one of those bricks and kept it on my desk at each church. While we at Hope were doing construction work that involved laying bricks, that historic brick disappeared. I figure that it's now part of the Hope building, which is a solid structure in itself. We can also rejoice, and even do so more, that not only is the Hope building solid, but its congregation finds its true foundation in Jesus the Christ, on whom each faithful church must build. Hope has done that for 50 years now. It's surely a time for rejoicing, and I will be cheering you on from the distance on Sunday. God bless you all.